Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, April 30th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. And San Diegans are breathing a sigh of relief after Governor Newsom made a splash today, declaring our beaches can stay open. It was a decision mired by confusion until only Orange County beaches were singled out. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has the latest.
It all started with a memo leaked last night saying the governor was going to close beaches statewide after seeing large crowds in Orange County. But the rules are different here. In the city of San Diego, there's no stopping, standing, or sitting on the sand. And earlier today, residents were not happy to hear that it all might be taken away.
I think they should go city to city. If they're not having a problem, in this city, why should you close it down? You know what I mean? Why should we suffer for somebody up there?
I don't think it's fair at all.
We're following the rules, and we should not be punished like little kids. Close the beaches in Newport and Huntington Beach, but don't touch San Diego. And I hope the mayor defends us.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer did just that, saying San Diegans have been following the rules and closing all beaches sends the wrong message. Then this afternoon, the governor announced just Orange County beaches would be closing.
We're going to do a hard close in that part of the state, just in the Orange County area.
We were out at Mission Beach when the governor made the announcement.
Oh, I could not be happier. Yeah, so that's wonderful. We kept it classy here this whole time, so I'm so glad he didn't paint, all of California with one wide brush.
I just got the most wonderful news that our beaches will remain open. Thank you, Governor Newsom, for using some common sense for a community that has completely complied with all the rules.
Well, that's a relief for us because I surf, I'm active down at the beach, and, for us not to have this open is a tragedy.
So the beaches are not being closed here in San Diego County, but the governor says they are being closed up in Orange County. Now the big question, will all those people start coming down here to our beaches?
He's got that problem. If he makes an exception for one city, then he's got to make them for another.
A couple beaches don't stay open. Well, where are they going to go? They're going to go to the ones that are. I normally go to Torrey Pines, but because that's closed, I'm now coming to Mission Beach.
If they do, then I guess we'll have to deal with it. But it makes sense. I mean, if people aren't abiding by the rules and all that, and it becomes a danger, I can understand him kind of looking at place to place, although I think that's harder for him.
Officials say San Diegans have been following the rules at the beaches and they're happy with the progress that's been made. But the big test comes this weekend. We'll see if there's lots of crowds out here at our county beaches. One thing to keep in mind though, starting tomorrow, that's Friday, you'll have to wear a face covering out in public. Here in Mission Beach, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
From the beaches to parks, San Diegans now have more options for getting some exercise and some fresh air. More easing of restrictions came on the same day the county indefinitely extended the public health order. 4 more people have died from the virus in our county, and there are also 132 new cases. KPBS reporter John Carroll has more.
If you're the outdoorsy type, some welcome news from the county today. Supervisors Greg Cox and Nathan Fletcher say we've all done a good enough job following public health regulations that some easing up is in order.
Our single family households may participate in active sports activities. Now, to be clear, this does not mean all of your family members who live in different households can come together.
In addition, Fletcher says local governments will have the option of opening up 50% of parking lots at parks. Beach parking lots will remain closed. And recreational boating will be allowed, again restricted to members of a single household. Fletcher warned that if infection numbers start heading up, the restrictions will be reinstated. Golf courses will be allowed to reopen if the course owner presents a complete social distancing plan to the county. From the state today, a focus on child care. Of the many sectors of California's economy that have been hit hard by coronavirus, child care facilities are right up there.
63% of licensed child care facilities in the state have been impacted from this crisis. That's a jaw-dropping number.
So, in consultation with leaders in the legislature, Governor Newsom announced a new program to help families that need child care. The state is ponying up $100 million to pay for it. It builds on a years-long effort by the State Department of Social Services to help financially challenged families with child care. The coronavirus pandemic just added rocket fuel to the effort. Help will be provided through an online portal, which you can find at mychildcare.ca.gov.
That allows you to go in, type in your zip code, and then see pop-ups of all of these child care facilities in your area, health and safety criteria, whether or not they're being met, licensing. You'll have a chance to really learn about the quality, not just the access to the available slots.
There are 432 of the pop-up facilities across the state. Social Services Director Kim Johnson says priority will be given to essential workers, along with what she called vulnerable populations, children in the state's child welfare system, at risk of abuse and neglect, children from families that are homeless. Governor Newsom says it's all a very important step toward the day when California's economy begins to reopen because, as he says, if people don't have a trusted place to leave their children when they go to work, they won't go back to work. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Starting tomorrow, face coverings will be required county-wide. And KPBS Science and Technology reporter Shalina Chatlani examines where to wear them and if they work.
Take a look at this picture. It's from Dr. Nahal Altenbonnet from the National Institutes of Health. And what it represents is not COVID-19, but a related beta coronavirus that infects mice.
This black bar up there is a micron.
University of Maryland aerobiologist Donald Milton says even 1 micron of droplet, think 1 particle of liquid in a very fine mist, or around 1/50th the diameter of a human strand of hair, could hold around 1,000 virus particles, or these black dots you see here.
We don't talk about droplets and aerosols because there is no distinction. Aerosols can be wet. They can be dry. Droplets can be large and ballistic, or they can be small enough to be lifted and floating on the air.
So with the spread of coronavirus, it's still unclear how significant the droplet size is with infections. But when it comes to wearing masks, Milton says while they may not provide complete protection, there is evidence that it will slow down the spread of these aerosols, alongside current social distancing measures.
It reduces the shedding from the sources. And then it also protects you a little bit against the virus that you might pick up from somebody else. So it works both as source control and as personal protective equipment. And adding those two things together is what we think can ultimately make a big difference at a population level.
And that's how the county puts it too. On Tuesday, officials said masks would be required.
If you're out walking in your neighborhood to get some exercise, take your mask with you and put it around your neck, much as I've done right here. Have it ready. Now, if you're walking by yourself, there's no one around, no harm, keep the mask down. If you see somebody coming close to you and 6 feet or closer, then we would ask you simply just to bring the mask back up and cover your face.
And today, the county outlined mask-wearing practices. Some places to wear a mask include at a store or business, when around other people, or in the office. But there are also some cases where you don't have to wear a mask, like when you're in the car by yourself or you're out surfing. So what does that mean for running? Some studies have shown that people who are directly behind runners could be exposed. Milton says even singing, which requires lots of lung use, can provide significant aerosol spray. His advice on running?
No, I think outside, if you're not in crowded spaces, it's fine. There's very little evidence for transmission out of doors, and especially during the daytime with the sun out. And down there in San Diego, you have a lot of sunny days.
Like county officials, Milton says, monitor your surroundings. If you're running on a crowded street, find another one, or put the mask on before someone gets too close. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
More than 3 million people filed for unemployment benefits last week as the coronavirus crisis continues to weigh on the economy. Over 30 million Americans have lost their jobs in the past 6 weeks. And in Washington, a new battle over another round of stimulus funding is just beginning. Whitney Wild has the latest.
Thursday marked one of the worst snapshots of the labor market in modern U.S. history.
We've been pretty frank with the American people that the shutting down of an economy is going to give us a few months of really, really startling data.
More than 3 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week, pushing the unemployment rate to 14% in April, the highest since the U.S. began releasing data in 1948.
Those numbers are as startling as anything we've seen since the Great Depression.
As Americans deal with the financial strain, lawmakers are debating another relief package. Democrats say they want more money to go to state and local governments, but Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says such funding should be contingent on passing liability reform to protect employers from lawsuits after the pandemic calms.
When we're looking at the states and municipalities and counties and the assistance that we would give them, we're looking at what are your outlays for the coronavirus and what is your revenue lost because of the coronavirus.
What she's ignoring is the second pandemic, which is going to be lawsuits against doctors, nurses, hospitals, and brave business people who are opening up.
Republicans and Democrats agree that additional stimulus funding is crucial to stabilizing the nation. But what neither side can say is when that aid will appear. The Senate heads back to Washington next week. The House likely won't return until a bill is ready for vote. In Washington, Whitney Wild, KPBS News.
A federal judge ruled today that Immigration and Customs Enforcement should release as many as 69 detainees at the Otay Mesa Detention Center. These detainees are considered medically vulnerable. Otay Mesa currently has the largest outbreak of COVID-19 of all immigration detention centers. The ruling was in response to a lawsuit brought by the ACLU. A status hearing is set for this Monday. May is usually when high school seniors commit to the college they're planning to attend. But as KPBS education reporter Joe Hong shows us, some students are having second thoughts.
California's stay-at-home order had been in effect for about a week when Daniel Juvel found out he was accepted into the University of Southern California. He was on a run when he got the email.
And I kind of just freaked out in the middle of the sidewalk in the street. I was just jumping up and down. I felt so happy. I felt like I actually it felt like a long-term goal met after working really hard for it.
At the moment, standing on the sidewalk, Juvel didn't think the pandemic would interrupt his college dreams.
It was March, and I was like, okay, August is really far away. I think it'll be over by then, but now it's literally May tomorrow, and it's not looking better.
If USC goes online for the fall, Juvel is now considering taking a gap year to work and save money. College admissions officers are well aware that these thoughts are going through the heads of their prospective students, and they are trying to adapt.
What this COVID-19 has done is it's thrown all models out the window.
Scott Haig oversees enrollment services at Cal State San Marcos. He says there's been a slight dip in the number of accepted students putting down their deposits, but he said it's likely because the university extended its deadline to June 1st. Haig has been hearing from students like Juvel who are considering taking a gap year. His argument to students is that they'll need a college education now more than ever.
With the economy in its current state, going in to complete your higher education is the best time to continue your education. A lot of times if you take a year off, it gets a little bit more difficult to come back to school.
Some students are committed to continuing their education, just at a less expensive venue.
Davis was sort of one of my dream schools. That was what I was really aiming for.
Rose Scala, who currently attends San Diego High School, says she eventually wants to end up at UC Davis for its environmental science program. But if the school does go online in the fall, she says she can't justify paying full tuition, so she might go to San Diego City College instead, but it would be disappointing.
I'm going to be sad if I don't get to go because there's been so much build up to this point, right? June 9th is supposed to be the end date of my high school experience, and then I move and I, grow up. But it looks like I might just be sort of staying in my house in sort of a continuation of high school.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer has announced a pilot program to limit traffic on some streets to enable better social distancing for pedestrians. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
The program is starting small, with about 2.5 miles of city streets limited to local traffic and emergency vehicles. The first was rolled out today on Diamond Street in Pacific Beach. Faulconer says the goal is, in places with crowded sidewalks, to let pedestrians spill into the street without fear of getting hit by cars.
Some areas we are seeing over 1,000 pedestrian trips per day. More people are walking around. This means that people need more room to physically walk around.
Councilwoman Jen Campbell says while the changes are temporary, they can help with the longer-term goal of reducing car travel.
A clear analysis on the possibilities could inspire a vision for the San Diego of tomorrow, one that prioritizes walkability and more open green space for our communities.
The city is also reopening commuter bike paths after closing them several weeks ago, and it's replacing small pedestrian cross buttons with larger ones that can be pushed with an elbow rather than a finger. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
We're following all of the latest coronavirus developments for you at kpbs.org. Just click on the Tracking COVID-19 link on our homepage, and you'll be taken to a page with all of our recent reports. While temperatures are pleasant along the coast, it heats up as you move east. Jeff Cornish has your forecast.
But we have some excessive heat persisting even into the evening hours here in the interior deserts. Meanwhile, it's much more comfortable near the coast and into the city of San Diego. So any of you tuning in from those eastern areas, even within San Diego County, look out and be careful. It's a good time to avoid strenuous activity. Tomorrow, some spots might be a couple degrees cooler, but other areas far to the east will be every bit as hot tomorrow. So some of these desert locations are going to be holding on to the persistent heat through Friday afternoon as well. Now, along the coastline, it's pretty pleasant. Really, we don't have many complaints. We'll be dealing with a slightly warmer trend into early next week, but probably not as hot as we were early this past week in San Diego, for example. So the excessive heat warnings continue until 9 p.m. Pacific time across interior parts of the region, east of Mount Laguna, Borrego Springs, and Points East. Overnight tonight, we're dealing with readings that fall to 64 in San Diego. There will be some low clouds lurking near the coast, Mount Laguna down to 55, and it'll be another hot time in the deserts tomorrow, but beautiful weather, at least comfortable air for the coastline once we get rid of some of those low clouds. And the heat will persist, but it'll begin to back off as we get a little deeper into the forecast for some of those desert locations. As we look at the San Diego County forecast for tomorrow, 70 at Mount Laguna, but 100 at Borrego Springs, Ramona 81, San Diego 72 with some low clouds in the morning. Weekend forecast, the core of the heat begins to push a little farther east. There will be numerous record highs into parts of Texas, for example, this Saturday and Sunday. But as we step ahead into next week, unseasonably warm weather will persist for the deserts of the southwest, and we'll get into the warmth as well at times with more of an offshore wind. For the coast, you can see the temperature trend from the mid-70s to near 80 by Tuesday. Low clouds lurking, though, for the next couple of mornings at least. Inland areas in the low 80s, but heating up quite a bit into Tuesday. Mountainous spots, this is a nice cool place to be. Upper 60s, mid-60s this weekend, Sunday, and into Monday as well. The deserts, though, the heat's pretty tenacious for a Friday. It backs off just a bit, but then it builds back in into Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Jail and prisons are a concern right now due to close quarters and the risk of a COVID-19 outbreak. It's one reason more inmates are being released early. But KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser says there are also unique challenges for those who are let go.
I got sentenced like 2 days before they closed the courts to a 170-day sentence with halftime at the downtown courthouse for my parole revocation. And they sentenced me to that. And then on April 18th, that Saturday that I just got out.
Stephen Harris was released early from jail due to COVID-19. After just a few weeks away, he re-entered a different world.
It's weird. It's like the ghost town outside. It's like the purge. You know, I don't see nobody outside. I knew it was serious. Like I heard somewhat about it, but in there we weren't really getting the message, like to where there's nobody on the streets, nobody riding the trolley, That's how I know, like, this is serious.
Other things are missing too. The contact he'd typically have with the court system.
The parole office is closed, and they're not even doing home visits. They're doing social distancing. They're doing phone check-ins once a week.
On March 7, 2002, I was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison.
Robert Wood is out after spending 18 years behind bars.
For a gang-related drug indictment, conspiracy to distribute 20 kilos of crack cocaine. I've been out 6 months. I got released September 26 of 2019.
In the best of times, getting support to find jobs and housing wouldn't be easy for him. Now, it's next to impossible.
If you're just getting out, you need help, you need access to resources that they can help you with, then those meetings are critically important to you. So for some people, it's just like, I'm sheltered in place, I need work. They may want to go talk to them about, job placement or something. And it's just hard to do. You just can't go talk to them in person.
Wood is talking to his parole officer on the phone and says without his family's support, he'd be homeless. He's currently on disability, but doesn't know where he'd find a job.
Any classes that you would be taking, or the employment centers, all those kind of places, the resource centers, the majority of those are closed.
Normally when a person gets out, they try to, and there's still gaps in the system.
Layla Aziz is the director of Pillars of the Community, a nonprofit that helps people who are just out of prison.
Probation officers and parole officers don't have the funding. Sometimes getting a bus pass to get to a drug treatment class in itself is hard. And so multiply that by infinity.
She's working nonstop right now to get people into housing and is dropping off donated restaurant meals 3 times a week.
Some people just don't have support. Some people are mostly a high number of people who are entering the criminal justice system are formerly foster youth.
One bright spot Aziz has found is that some are getting unexpected support from their families.
Grandma said you can never come back, but you know what, you can because of COVID. It's almost like you can come eat Thanksgiving dinner. You can't be in here, we're sick of you, you have to show us that you're doing better. You can come eat Thanksgiving dinner. COVID is kind of like that.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
For many years, San Diego's had a backlog of repairs for its roads, sidewalks, and sewer pipes. The current mayor has made infrastructure a priority. But as iNewsSource reporter Mary Plummer reports, COVID-19 has thrown the city's finances off track.
The city's infrastructure funding gap is a little more than $2 billion. But notably, that figure came out in February before the coronavirus shutdown. It triggered major declines in city revenue. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer has said he'll maintain his pace of road repairs, but his latest budget proposal includes cuts that could slow city improvements on bad streets and aging properties. Among them, 2 pothole repair positions and less money to maintain city buildings. Former Mayor Jerry Sanders calls the city's finances a, quote, unbelievable challenge.
I faced some budget problems when I was at the city, and this is just bigger than I've ever seen.
The next mayor will be either Assemblyman Todd Gloria or Councilwoman Barbara Bree. They're competing in a November runoff. Faulconer is termed out. Again, here's Sanders.
It's going to be a difficult time, and it's going to take some good leadership from the next mayor.
Sanders says pay raises will be challenging and staff cuts will be needed. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Mary Plummer.
With sheltering at home, people are turning more and more to streaming options for entertainment. KPBS film critic Beth Accomando sifts through just a few of those choices for this weekend.
Digital Gym Cinemas had to close its doors like other movie theaters because of the coronavirus pandemic, but it's still open for business with virtual tickets to new films like Nuestras Madres. Set in contemporary Guatemala, the film looks to a young anthropologist working for the Forensic Foundation. His job is to identify the missing and collect witness statements from those who remain. But the job becomes personal when one story leads to information about his own father that his mother is not eager to explore. The film is quietly impactful as it explores personal grief and loss, set in bold relief by a country trying to come to terms with its own history. Grief and loss get filtered through horror in The Wretched, as a teenager discovers a witch next door who devours kids and then makes family members forget they even existed.
I don't have a son.
It's a formulaic horror tale that fails to develop an interesting mythology, but it's a showcase for practical effects. It just needed a stronger script. Reanimating the zombie genre is at the heart of the Shudder original film Blood Quantum, in which a zombie plague infects the world, but the indigenous inhabitants of the Red Crow Reserve prove immune. Kudos to filmmaker Jeff Barnaby for tweaking genre expectations to deliver something fresh. The film's biggest asset, and my new hero, is a sword-wielding, zombie-killing grandpa. And finally, I want to end on a high note of pure comic bliss, the return of What We Do in the Shadows. If you have not sunk your teeth into this bloody good show, then you can binge the first season and then eagerly await new episodes each Wednesday.
Total protection from the sun.
It's about a group of vampires trying to survive in modern-day New York. Treat yourself to comic perfection. You'll laugh so hard, your fangs will hurt. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Now an update on our top story. Governor Newsom ordered Orange County beaches to close but spared the rest of the state, and that includes San Diego. Also today, county officials announced more easing of restrictions surrounding public parks, boating, and golf courses. And a reminder, starting tomorrow, face coverings will be required in public, and that is countywide. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.